YouTube, I recently react to the Backdoor King 800 TJ, the killer who terrorized Chicago. We finna see what this video talking about. This is a 51-minute video. We ain't gonna watch the whole thing, but yeah, we finna go ahead and get into it.
Chicago is another place of doom where the streets don't forgive, and trust is just another word for weakness. 800 TJ, a name that rang through the trenches like a warning shot. Feared, respected, untouchable. The streets called him the Backdoor King, a mastermind who played the game cold and calculated. But in a city where snakes move in silence, even the ones who set the plays can become the next play. TJ was deep in the war between 800 and Bloodhound, a beef that ended the lives of so many young talents. Lil Scoom, a close affiliate of Bloodhound Lil Jeff, was backdoored just a couple of days. Lil Jeff was shot a month ago after being shot 19 times while on a mission to kill his ops. A video that talks about the whole story is in the description, but we might say a brief of how he was murdered later in the video. Even just after the news went viral about Bloodhound Lil Jeff's murder an hour ago, a fan mourning the loss of Lil Jeff posted his picture, paying respect to a young talent whose life was cut short. But what happened next showed just how cold the game really is. 800 TJ saw the post. Instead of silence, he left laughing emojis in the comments, mocking the dead. That wasn't enough. He went on Instagram, posted Lil Jeff's picture on his story, and taunted his enemies, letting them know he wasn't done yet. But in Chicago, you make enemies when you move like a king. And when you make enemies, you're only one step away from being the next play, because that's the story of 800 TJ. He didn't stop there. He went live on Instagram with his homie playing Lil Jeff's song in the background, dissing him as usual.
Hey, turn that to the. Hey, TJ, he's tweaking. Turn that LAXR red on bleed. LAXR red on bleed. Red on bleed.
On up, huh?
Even worse, 800 TJ took it personally, going live on IG with the caption, Lil Jeff, while on Lil Jeff's block, dancing around with his homie Lil Mike.
I take your J before I buy it. This money think I know so from side to side. Yeah. Every really spank ass turn side to side. Nigga, don't get your gas smoke like the
They in the comments somewhere.
I take your J before I buy it. Good with the Glock. This ain't thicker. Every really spank shit turns side to side. Damn.
This is my 2000 baby.
But while 800 TJ was doing this, he never knew his ops were calculating how and when to get him, since he thought he was untouchable. After Lil Jeff's death, 800 TJ made one fatal mistake. He let his guard down. He laughed at his ops online, taunted them in the comments, and went live, dissing the very people who were calculating how and when to get their revenge after he was involved in a gun trade that ended up killing his homie turned ops. Less than a month later, on July 11, 2024, he was shot and killed after going on live dissing his ops. However, before we get into the details of his final moments, let's talk about how 800 became one of the most feared and most hated gangs in Chicago, because to understand why 800 TJ was targeted, you first have to understand the terror his gang brought to the city. 800 gang terrified the streets of Chicago. Chicago's streets have always been a battlefield, but some wars leave deeper scars than others, and one gang, more than any other, became the face of terror: 800.
Less than a month is crazy, man.
The streets called them ruthless. The internet called them Chicago's most hated gang. But how did it all begin? To understand, we have to rewind to the bloody shootouts that shook the city, the wars that put 800 on a collision course with their most feared rivals, and the moves that made them a target. The conflict between Gang 800 and their rivals wasn't just another street beef. This was war, and every move was met with a deadlier counter, with an online fan giving some part of their enemies, 051YM, Paxtown, Pockettown, Sircon, gangs that weren't just rivals but sworn ops. And the truth is, the more they dominated the streets, the more their enemies plotted their downfall. Every diss, backdoor, and kill was another step closer to their reckoning. And for 800 terajoules, that moment came sooner than he ever expected. Back in 2013, tensions between 800 and a group of gangster disciples from 63rd and St. Lawrence exploded into a deadly beef, one that would leave a trail of bodies. And at the center of it all was a name that still echoes in the trenches: Big Mike, a well-known member of the 800 gang. Big Mike wasn't just another soldier in 800. He was the type of person to spark a war and watch the flames spread. It all started when Big Mike allegedly shot up one of the most famous homes in Chicago's drill scene, the residence of none other than FBG Duck. But in the trenches, it's not just about what you do, it's about how you move after. Instead of laying low, Big Mike took the disrespect to another level. He went on Twitter, openly calling out FBG Duck and taunting him for not retaliating. 800 boss Smooth would also join in taunting FBG Duck and say that they made him move after shooting up his house. Big Mike didn't realize that in Chicago, dissing the wrong people means you're only one play away from becoming the next target. This move escalated the beef between 800 and 63rd to a whole new level, setting off a chain reaction of backdoors, ambushes, and street retaliation. The streets don't let things slide, and St. Lawrence wasn't about to let Big Mike's actions go unpunished. It didn't take long for his enemies to respond. Not long after his Twitter taunts and alleged involvement in shootings, members from St. Lawrence caught up with Big Mike, and when they did, they made sure he wouldn't be sliding ever again. The same man who once moved recklessly in the streets of Chicago, terrorizing his ops, was now confined to a wheelchair, even to this day. They shot him in both legs, leaving him paralyzed for life. According to Reddit fans, Big Mike must be the one who shot up Mama Duck's crib, and because of this, he was shot twice in 2012. The second shooting left him paralyzed, and according to Big Mike himself, that was the work of McCreek. And if that's true, Big Mike's fate was already sealed before he even knew it. FBG Duck would waste no time going online and replying to 800 boss Smooth, implying that the GDs from St. Lawrence and 63rd were directly behind paralyzing Big Mike. FBG Butta would also talk about the situation, how he had a fight with 800 in front of Mama Duck's house, claiming later that night, Big Mike came and did some and got put in a wheelchair because of that, seemingly saying his fight was the reason why Big Mike got shot and put in a chair with him, also adding that it was God's wrath, that it was just a punishment for shooting up a place with kids on Easter Day.
And you
They some goofy.
okay, you made mention of him allegedly being put in a wheelchair in retaliation to a shooting he allegedly did where he was shooting at somebody's house.
When I say he got put in a wheelchair for shooting that fucked him out.
I'm saying allegedly.
Now
though.
look,
Yeah.
let me clear the way for you know when you do like it was Easter Day, it was kids and so we gonna speak facts, right? You shot at the house, we weren't there. Well, none of the guys that we was all on St. Lawrence. Motherfuckers knew we was on St. Lawrence. We just whooped your homie and them on St. Lawrence in front of the stove, right? So you did that fluky shit, but you shot at folks' mama crib on Easter while the kids in that bitch Easter hunting. That's clown shit. Punished you. He didn't take your life game, but he took something else away from you to show you your evil that you caused, that you done, gang.
Now, 800 would continue to dish out violence themselves, killing a member of MC Creek after a brutal altercation. On September 9th, 2013, a man named Alan Ross, known on the street as Fish from Mack Creek, was found lying in the grass of Washington Park at 6 a.m. Initially, it was thought he died from a gunshot wound to the back of his head. However, the medical examiner would later determine that he had actually been beaten to death, with online Redditors claiming Alan Ross suffered from a mental disability, making his death more heartbreaking. A popular rumor would go viral claiming Fish was actually murdered over a mere $5 debt by an 800 member called Pyro, along with 3 other men. 800 members seemed pretty happy about Fish's killing. For example, Boss Smooth released a diss track, 61 dead ops, we don't do no fighting, end up like Fish. However, Boss Smooth wouldn't go unpunished as he was also backdoored and murdered, which would be discussed later in the video. The death of Booby, the first lady of Jarrow City. In Chicago's gang culture, even a party meant for remembrance can turn into a battlefield. Back in 2015, a group of 800 members, including Fats, 800 TJ, Pyro, and others, were invited to a gathering in the East Alley of the 6100 block of Cottage Grove. But this wasn't just any party. According to documents found online, the event was meant to commemorate the death of a gang member named Crack. Almost every major gang set was in attendance. 051, Jarrow City, 800, and more. What started as a night of respect and remembrance quickly turned into a night of bloodshed. While the party was still in full swing, old tensions resurfaced. An altercation broke out between 800 and Taekwon World, TW, a war that had been brewing since September or October 2012. The history between these two gangs was filled with violence, retaliation, and backdoor plays, and on that night, those old wounds were reopened. What started as a heated argument quickly escalated into a full-blown fight, and before long, gunfire erupted. Booby, the first lady of Jarrow City, was caught in the crossfire. Booby wasn't just any gang affiliate, she was a respected and loved figure who moved across different sets. Many gangs rocked with her, and her presence at the party was a sign of how deeply connected she was in the streets. As bullets flew through the crowd, one struck Booby, a tragic accident in the middle of a senseless shootout. But what made her death even more heartbreaking? She was pregnant. Not only was she carrying Lil Boo's child, but she also already had a son. She didn't really want to go to this party, but she ended up going to the party anyway because she had some smokes that she needed to sell. But she never knew that would be the end of her life. When the news broke about her death, 800 gangs were mad about it. Even the dude who did it was mad about it. He knew that Bullet wasn't meant for her, and they all loved her too, which means it was an accident. However, her death would later stir up the beef between 800 and Jarrow City. In a live session with 800 Fats and Lil Don from Pockettown, 800 Fats would later reference her death, bragging and adding her as one of the bodies dropped by him and his fellow 800 members. He also admitted to having killed 5 people.
Motherfuckers' family members got shot in their stomach and had to abort their baby, all type of shit. Who else?
You ask me what you do to people, I'm asking you what I do to people.
Listen, we not even talking about that right now, but
Okay then, don't ask me that.
No, you.
They talk,
I'm
mind
talking
up.
about you and me knowing you.
Mind you, they talk about all this shit on live game. Like, they don't get no fuck. These niggas don't get a kid in the world.
What I do to people on Kevin Gray? What I do to people? No, what you did once before on Pyro? How many funerals did it's been on Pyro? Stop that. You better slow down, baby boy.
Hey, Fazzo, you can't talk that talk with me, folks. You can't talk that talk with me, folks. We go toe to toe, folks.
You better slow your roll, baby boy.
Hey,
The heated argument continued, highlighting personal grievances and alleged affiliations with opposing gangs. And after this Boobies incident, Pyro, a well-known 800 member responsible for the death of Fish from Mack Creek in late May 2016, would suffer a brutal ending in a similar circumstance to what happened to his victim. Pyro, real name Kevin Larry, was in the room with a group of friends from MOB. According to official documents and information from a Reddit user, the night started out normal. Tommy and his fiancée Jennifer were heading to the gas station when they saw E-Boy and 10 Milli outside, playing dice. A couple of hours later, they all ended up back at the same house. By 6 a.m., Domo, another MOB member, broke into Tommy's door to join the dice game. Things got heated, but for a while everything settled. Then, out of nowhere, an argument erupted.
Yeah, I'm locked in. I'm listening.
First, then, an argument erupted. Mob E-Boy left first. Then, 10 Milli and Domo kept playing, but another argument broke out, over just $5 or $10. At this point, 10 Milli left too. The tension in the room was thick, but Pyro was still asleep, unaware of what was happening around him. Domo apparently got mad and woke Pyro up and told Pyro to get out of the house. At this point, Pyro was pleading, exclaiming, "I didn't do anything," and Domo threatened to shoot Pyro, bringing out a handgun with an extended magazine. Then Nut from MOB Pyro's cousin told Domo to stop waving the gun in his cousin's face. As Pyro was walking out of the apartment exclaiming he didn't do anything, Domo released the trigger and shot him in the chest at 7:47 a.m. and even went on to say, "I should have killed the whole house." Domo, whose real name is Dominic Greer, was arrested and charged with Pyro's death. He was sentenced to over 50 years in prison for the murder of Pyro. When the news broke out announcing his death, many fans began to react to his demise. Some were blaming him for being in the midst of MOB. However, he was innocent at the point because he never involved himself in the dice game because he was asleep. Others stated it was karma that led to his death because of what he did to fish from Matt Creek on September 8, 2013. Now, the next shootout would allegedly include 800 TJ getting himself involved with his fellow 800 members who were seemingly looking out for revenge on their rivals from MOB, making them prime suspects in one of Chicago's most infamous shootings on the 9th of October 2018. 800 TJ, whose real name is Tyjan Bush, was from the south side of Chicago, specifically an area nicknamed Burnside on 93rd and Cottage. He lived with his father throughout his teenage years, but was constantly in and out of jail.
So what was your household like growing up then? Like, did you have both parents in the home? Any brothers and sisters, stuff like that?
Yeah, I did. Well, my daddy, he always be book type shit like that. It's Ray J. He always book type shit.
At 13, TJ officially jumped off the porch and fully embraced the street life.
At age 13, jumping in steamers. Who taught you how to drive?
At this age, he caught his first criminal case for stealing a car. 800 TJ started coming around 61st and Cottage Grove, the territory of a gang named 800, from which he got his street name 800 TJ. At the time, TJ would become a beloved member of 800, and from here, the rest became history. On the 9th of October 2018, Ventriez Chris, also known as Dusky Tha Man, was tragically murdered. This was the last known photograph of him with his friends before his untimely death. Dusky, at the age of 25, was fatally shot in the head on his block. According to reports, the shooting occurred just before 4 p.m. in the 5600 block of South Michigan Avenue, a place around Chicago's neighborhood. Dusky was shot in the head, and a 20-year-old woman was also injured, struck in her left foot. Both were taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where Dusky Tha Man was pronounced dead at 4:33 p.m., and the woman was stabilized. Members of 600 would be speculated to be the prime suspects because they were seen driving around with guns just a few moments before Dusky was killed. There have been theories going around that Oblak might be the one responsible for the death of Dusky, but we cannot be sure. However, the 600 gang became the one with a large number of votes involved in Dusky's death. However, after Dusky's death, while his friends were hurt deeply and vowed revenge, his ops would go live to taunt his death as Memo 600 went live on IG, playing a song in the background while dissing Dusky.
That, and then before you know it, we woke up in the morning and Fats, Twine, and everything.
After the death of Dusky the following day, MOB members would retaliate by killing a 600 member named Waldo, which was seemingly speculated as a get-back for Dusky and for taunting him while he was dead. Waldo was a beloved member of 600. He was among the first to go straight to the internet and diss Dusky after his death. According to rumors, a car consisting of 2 to 3 MOB members and 1 GeoDrive member were driving around 600 blocks all day when they noticed Waldo. Some said Waldo was lacking on his own, while others said he was going to the doctor with his pregnant baby mother when a car pulled up and shot Waldo in the head. Pictures of his body circulated around the internet, capturing his lifeless body on the ground. The red circle was where Waldo was killed. The 800 members were said to be happy to have avenged the killing of their fallen brother. However, this wouldn't be seen as enough for 800 members, as they would allegedly strike again at Dusky's funeral, held on October 22nd, 2018. This is where the funeral would be tragically shot up, leaving 6 people shot. According to reports, the funeral was held at a church where many gang sets attended, like MOB, STL, and 051YM. And after the funeral, people started leaving the premises, and then tragedy struck. At around 12:20 p.m., shooters started firing at the group of people gathered outside with AR, with witnesses saying it was with big guns. As the firing was going on, members at the funeral started firing back. Allegedly, one of the alleged shooters got Wooski from STL in the head. Many rumors would spread after the shooting, debating exactly who it was and who could have been responsible for the shootout. Many also theorized that the shootout must have been from A Block or 600 members who would shoot up the funeral as revenge for Waldo. The claim would allegedly become evident as King Von from A Block would reference the funeral shooting like the track, Grandson for President, where he mentioned the shooting of Wooski. I've been killing shit for too long, I'm like a veteran. Wooski got shot, now he taking medicine. But anyways, GDK. And also in the song Back Again where he raps, at your funeral, I might just slide, rest in P nigga. Shoot up everybody that's outside. Bet Wooski feel this one. I bet Wooski still twitching. He changed, something different. However, many believed it was actually 800 that might have been the ones involved in the shootout. And much like A Block members who would talk about it in their songs, 800 members would leave as many clues relating to the funeral shooting. 800 Fats would rap in the song Do Some, you know I'm gripping my toolie, run up on 'em, have 'em looking. Like Wooski, slide to the funeral and shoot us a movie. And also, in the track Head Tap Fats would rap, up the Glock, quick head tap, now he looking Wooski slow. However, Lil Fats may not have been involved in the shooting as the police reports describe the alleged shooters to be carrying short dreads, as some Redditors would as well match up the description to 800 TJ as the alleged shooter involved in the funeral shooting, with some also confirming the claim to be 800 Gang. Speculation suggested that the 800 Gang had their eyes on this funeral for a reason. Their beef with STL ran deep, and things had been heating up for years. One 800 member had even threatened to beat up KI, a well-known STL affiliate. But this war wasn't just between 800 and STL. Originally, 800 and 51 were cool, but things changed when 51 allied with TYMB, one of 800's biggest ops. That's when everything got real. It's rumored that 800 retaliated by killing 051 Tana's sister, a move that turned a street rivalry into a blood feud. And when Dusky was killed, rumors started circulating. 800 was planning to shoot up the funeral. It wasn't just about Dusky. 800 knew that 3 of their biggest op sets, including MOB and GeoDrive, would be at the funeral. Their motive was to catch and take out anyone they could. And in the chaos, Wooski just happened to be in the crossfire. The 800 Gang has made many enemies over the years, fueled by diss songs and little issues. 800 has mostly beef with MTG 039, Bando Boys, TW, and many more. They are mainly allied with OTV, with top members like Lil Fats, Lil Twin, Lil Twan, Sko, and Boss Smooth.
Booking.com has
sets. And they are mainly allied with OTV, with top members like Lil Fats, Lil Twin, Lil Twan, Sko, and Boss Smooth, who ran the sets. Meanwhile, 800,000 Tons, with some other 800 members like 800 Fats and Twan, would be involved in another shootout after a failed gun trade. The death of Curio from MTG 039. On January 2nd, 2020, a seemingly routine gun trade was set to take place on East 83rd Street in Chicago. The deal involved members of the 800 Gang and a member of Murder Town, known as Curio, his real name, Tyvel Qualls. At just 18 years old, Curio was looking to swap firearms with 800 members, unaware that this exchange would ultimately cost him his life. Lil Fats, 800 TJ, and Lil Twin were the 800 representatives for the trade. The plan was simple: meet Curio, swap guns, and go their separate ways. But that's not how things played out. As the deal unfolded, 800 members started to feel that Curio was trying to outsmart them. Suspicion turned into greed, and greed turned into violence. Instead of completing the trade, 800 members attempted to snatch Curio's firearm and make a run for it. But Curio wasn't about to let them get away so easily. He resisted. That's when things turned deadly. Lil Twin pulled out his weapon and fired. The first shot hit Curio in the leg. He struggled, still determined to protect his gun by running. The 800 members would pick up the chase against Curio with a fatal shot coming out from a tan truck. Lil Twin fired again, this time striking Curio in the neck. As he collapsed, bleeding out on the cold pavement, 800 TJ and the rest of the crew seized his weapon and fled the scene, leaving him to die. Curio was rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center, but the damage was too severe. He was pronounced dead, another young life lost to the streets. But what made this murder even more chilling was what happened next. Just days after the killing, Lil Twin and Lil Fats took to social media, posting pictures of themselves holding Curio's gun, a sign of disrespect and a way of revealing to the world that 800 are the Backdoor Kings. And Curio wasn't the only victim. The 800 crew had a reputation for setting up trades and executing cold-blooded backdoor moves, with 800 TJ bringing up the idea. Another well-known case involved a man named Bando Hothead. Just like Curio, Bando was lured into a gun deal, only to be backdoored and killed. The death of Bando Hothead from Face World 069. Once again, the man behind the...
Alright, yeah, that's how we're gonna work. Yeah. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that video. Let me know what y'all want me to react to next. And like I always say, man, we out.